Thank you, Cloncorla. While this bill is welcome, it comes very late for many workers who worked hard in the workplace and have been let down very badly. The bill is technical in nature and comprises of 4 sections. The purpose of the legislation is to provide for the making of a once-off state-funded payment to workers facing redundancy and who have lost the opportunity to secure reckonable service due to layoffs caused by the COVID-19 restrictions. The proposed legislative change is intended to ensure that such workers will receive full redundancy entitlements as though she or he had not been laid off during the emergency period, the 13th of March 2020 to the 30th of September 2021, and to ensure that employers aren't burdened with the cost to enhance their recovery viability. Government-mandated restrictions have caused workers to lose the opportunity to secure reckonable services through no fault of their own or their employers. For this reason, a reckonable service COVID-related payment is to be funded by the state based on the duration of COVID-19 restrictions. The maximum state payment to which a person made redundant will be entitled to is $1,860 tax-free if they were laid off for the entire period of the restrictions and were earning $600 or over per week. Payments for periods of layoffs arising from COVID-19 restrictions will be made by the Department of Social Protection out of the Social Insurance Fund. It is envisaged the scheme will be operational for a period of 3 years until the 1st of October 2024. People who have already been made redundant since March 2020 have been laid off due to the COVID-19 will be covered under the scheme. While we are talking about workers' rights, I have many constituents who have so many issues in regards to pensions and miscommunications between the various departments. I have one lady who can prove she has 520 contributions yet, and she cannot receive her pension. Mind you, she did receive it first and it was taken off her. I have another very ill man who was self-employed for years. When he applied for illness benefit, he was turned down. He then applied for invalidity, and again he's been turned down. The problem being he didn't have enough contributions from the previous years. The reason being that the man was too ill to work and too ill to claim any welfare payment. This system is not good enough, Minister. There needs to be measures put in place for exceptional cases and where deciding officers can use a little bit of discretion for extreme cases. And let's face it, a bit of cop-on should be used for people in extreme circumstances and for people who have worked extremely hard all their lives and deserve a break. And there's nothing more upsetting to tell someone that is extremely ill and has a severe amount of bills and overheads and has family, and to tell that family that they're entitled to nothing. It's a terrible, terrible thing to have to say that to them. And I can see it in our office. We try every measure from every angle, even contacting the Minister in situations, not personally, obviously, her department, to try and see is there any possibility that a payment could be made to someone that's very ill and deserving of the case, and proof with accountants of the illness and proof with doctors and medical. That still doesn't work. It falls between two stools. It's a terrible, terrible, unfair situation. This bill probably comes too late for Debenham workers, and a lot has been said about them in here today, and well-voiced concerns the way these workers were treated absolutely appallingly. And I know some of them from my own end in West Cork, and were in contact with them during their crisis situation. And to be honest with you, Minister, there was little compassion shown in here for the Debenham workers. Some of these people were workers all their life. They knew nothing about protesting. They didn't enter into a protest, only that they were in an extreme circumstance and were left there by the state instead of the state. Maybe sometimes it needs to stand up, and a strong voice coming from leadership might send a message. Maybe Debenhams are above listening to the people, but it certainly looked like they were there. We have the same situation in West Cork with Carl Lodge, where 27 employees working in West Cork's only addiction treatment centre for teenage boys. It was closed in September 2020 during COVID. Imagine, it's the only addiction treatment centre, so it has addiction for young people, so it has addictions in it. That they didn't need that service. Of course they needed that service, but there were teams of professionals there who worked with the teenagers and other administrative staff, of course, cooks, cleaners, maintenance crews, and the redundancy situation that arose, and that was a nightmare situation for these workers. Again, first of all, they lost their jobs. They couldn't understand why. An awful lot of shenanigans was going on behind the scenes, and nobody had the decency to put up their hands up in the air and accept and give the full reasons as to why the centre was closed. Mind you, I hear it's reopened under another heading recently again. But to the people that spend years and years there working with these young people, and I spoke to a lot of the younger people that had come out the good side because of using a service like this, were so hurt to think that others that could be in their circumstances ended up not getting that type of service, and their employees losing their jobs and after spending many years there. And on top of losing their jobs, Minister, the redundancy then became a nightmare issue for them as well. So, unfortunately, redundancy doesn't escape any constituency. It reaches every constituency, but it certainly leaves a sting in the tail for quite a lot of people. And that will say at least it backups or supports for the workers aren't there. To lose your job is a daunting and is a terrible experience for many. And when the right supports aren't there, it leaves people feeling extremely vulnerable. And the other issues that I mentioned here in relation to extreme illnesses and payments to people, I would have pleaded with you, Minister, even you mightn't be the Minister in charge of that sector, to sit down with your colleagues and look at some kind of a situation where a payment can be made to people in that circumstances. Thank you.